And before we continue, would you like a process paper?
No, we're not supposed to look at it.
Alright. My name is Anthony Dickup, and I'll be performing as John Ross.
I am Tyler Bryan, and I will be Andrew Jackson.
I'm Anthony Miller, and I will be a messenger, a soldier, and John Marshall.
The weapons used in this production are fake, and we are the Indian Removal Act and Andrew Jackson's gunboat diplomacy.
The current date is March 5th, 1831, and the fate of my people lies in the hands of the United States Supreme Court. For the past year, my colleagues and I petitioned the United States government in order to remove the policies put into motion by the Indian Removal Act. I allied myself with the well-known Henry Clay and David Crockett and many others to draw more support to my cause. In June 1830, I took my case to the Supreme Court in order to debate the injustice this act would cause my people. And now I am awaiting their decision. It all started back in 1830 when President Andrew Jackson wrote the Indian Removal Act.
And it may be lawful for the President of the United States to cause so much at any territory belonging to the United States, west of the river of the Mississippi. Finally, I can remove those savages and allow for westward expansion. Imagine, one day, our people spread all over the continent. Our nation spread coast to coast. Can you see how powerful we shall become? With this new land, we can quadruple the normal output of crops. We can build more factories, thus increasing our goods. And we'll have more ports so we can ship them and increase America's economy. Why? We could even become one of the most wealthiest nations in the world! Take this to Andrew Stevenson, Speaker of the House. I want it before Congress immediately.
Yes, sir.
Soon, very soon, the United States will equal the wealth of even England. And to think, we're not only ridding this nation of filth, but I'm increasing America's power and wealth as well.
Needless to say, the President's bill was eagerly presented before Congress. And as soon as it was passed, the great melting pot was spilt into a floor of confusion and chaos. All over the United States, Native American tribes began to seek legal representation to debate for their rights. It was during this time that the Cherokee tribes joined together as one to form the Cherokee Nation. I was appointed their chief to represent them as I petitioned the United States government. But despite my pleas and paperwork, President Andrew Jackson refused to lift the Indian Removal Act.
Thankfully, the Indians never held a massive attack. However, they did spark a fuse that would rock the foundations of the U.S. Supreme Court.
I took my nation's debate to the Supreme Court in June 1830. The case was the Cherokee Nation versus Georgia. My plan was to demand an injunction to prevent the Indian Removal Act from ever being enforced. If this act was to be adhered to, my people would be forced off our land and our way of life would be lost. For a year, my people have fought for the right to stay in the land of our forefathers. And now I await the decision of Supreme Court Justice John Marshall to determine the fate of my people.
All rise. For nearly a year, I've sat and debated over this ruling. I've heard the esteemed John Ross defend his argument that this act is infringing upon his people's rights. I'm also aware that President Jackson intends to carry out this act to its fullest potential. Therefore, it is this court's ruling that in the case of the Cherokee Nation versus the state of Georgia, that the proposed injunction is denied. Because the Cherokee Nation is not a recognized part of the United States and is therefore not applicable for such a ruling, let alone a court case. I wish for Mr. Ross to understand that according to the rules and regulations set forth by the court, only registered United States citizens are permitted the right to petition the United States government. And since the overwhelming majority of the Cherokee Nation are not registered United States citizens, they're therefore not even allowed to present this case before the court. Court is adjourned.
In 1831, I began to set the Indian Move Act in motion. I gave a grace period for all Indian tribes to freely and willfully move to their allotted territories. However, the overwhelming majority refused to do so, claiming that this was their land and what I was doing was an injustice and other such nonsense. So it was during this time that I allowed for gunboat diplomacy, which was
Sir, the Indians are refusing to budge. What are your orders?
tell them that if they refuse to move, they are at the mercy of the act. In other words, I will use gunboat diplomacy.
What exactly is that, sir?
It means that you, the military, move them by force if they refuse to do so.
So what am I to tell the Indians?
Tell them that if they refuse to move, they will die where they stand!
Yes, sir. Mr. Ross, the President has ordered us to forcibly remove any and all resisting forces.
But surely there must be...
His orders were quite clear, sir, so I suggest that you advise your nation to be submissive to the law at once, or they shall pay the price.
They will resist no matter what I say. We've been fighting this for over 100 years, so I believe I speak for all of us when I say that submission shall not come without persuasion.
I admire your courage, sir, but may I remind you that this persuasion the President has issued is more like genocide.
Fine. I shall inform my people that our fight is over.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ross. I just hope the casualties are minimal.
The Indian Removal Act led to hundreds of thousands of Native Americans being forced off their land, with the help of President Andrew Jackson's gunboat diplomacy. This diplomacy led to the destruction of my people. After 1836, after the Treaty of New Guinea, my people were forced to march in what is now called the Trail of Tears. Jackson's soldiers followed his orders to the letter, and if one of my people refused to move, or could not because of wariness or incapability, they were at the mercy of gunboat diplomacy. Jackson's soldiers enforced gunboat diplomacy by either executing my people or leaving them to die. I later presented my case before Congress again, but I lost the debate for our rights, and the end result of my people was death. Thank you.